I'm a truth teller. Some people can't handle it.
It's a dangerous thing to mistake speaking without thought for speaking the truth. Don't you think?
Are you calling me dangerous?
Is possibly my favourite line from the film Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, because it's a line that somewhat tells you everything you need to know about the central themes here. Not only that, it's also kind of the turning point in this story. The turning point from great detective Benoit Blanc being very much a fish out of water.
That is quite a piece.
Never without it.
So I see.
Seemingly thrown into the world of a billionaire's private island.
Should we get our bags?
Sun is blinding.
Someone will get them forward, so okay.
An awkward observer caught up in the intricate dynamics of this group of friends all around him, now turning from that to someone who is in his element. Confident again, self-assured, not awkwardly passively caught on the edges, fumbling, a little bit ignored, but now making his impact with a sort of suave one-liner you'd expect of Daniel Craig in a very different set of films, except it's a suave line not being delivered to half seduce a Bond girl. It's a line aggressively criticising an idiot, for lack of a better word. I suppose that's kind of the joke here. Birdie here so fails to understand what Benoit is saying that she thinks he's flirting the way James Bond probably would. And it makes me laugh. It's perfect. I say it's aggressively criticising an idiot, but that's not a fair way to put it at all. Because Birdie is intelligent in certain ways, and being an idiot itself isn't what this film criticises. That would be a weird message for a film, wouldn't it? She's being criticised for her dangerous actions and refusal to reflect on them, I suppose. And the criticism isn't really Benoit to Birdie, it's bigger than that. Okay, so that might sound like waffle, I don't know. I just wanted to set this out a little before we really properly get into the analysis, because this will skirt on the edges of some spoilers. I won't reveal anything big outright, but I'm going to talk about the themes here, and you might kind of piece together some of the plot elements as a result of that. Depends how good you are at mysteries, I don't know. Glass Onion is a great film. It does have issues. I think they're fairly easy to spot, but that's not my focus today. Maybe I'll touch on it at the end or in some other video, who knows. We have the story of eccentric billionaire Miles Bron, who every year organises some sort of meet-up with his closest friends, Duke, Lionel, Claire and Birdie, this time to come to his private island for a murder mystery game to solve his murder. World's greatest detective Benoit Blanc is also invited, and at first it's unclear why. If you can hear weird noises in the background, that will be our house rabbit, Freddy. He's next to me at the moment and he's eating a carrot. Yeah, anyway, with the spoiler warnings aside, let's get into the good stuff. So naturally, the turning point that comes here isn't just Benoit becoming more active, going from the back to the front foot. It's also that our protagonist finally gets her voice.
Wow.
Because I think Andy is our protagonist, really. That's one of the interesting things about these Knives Out film, how the detective isn't a protagonist in each one of them. He's more a guide, I guess. And yeah, through her voice we begin to see the truth of these characters. None of them are the brilliant pioneers, the disruptors they're cracked up to be. Shocking. Maybe that's obvious from the beginning, right? It probably should be, and yet we get blindsided by these elaborate boxes sent to them by Miles. How stylish the editing is as they go about solving these puzzles, we get wrapped up in it. Surely they must be elites to be solving these puzzles, to be receiving the boxes in the first place. These are puzzles Benoit later describes as
simple children's puzzles.
I guess we want these puzzle boxes to be complex and wonderful because that's kind of what we want from murder mysteries. We want complex intrigue. It's the exact same mistake Benoit makes with his introduction into the film. He exclaims,
I need a great case.
And he never gets one. You know, he desperately wants one, and It's for that reason he comes in looking for something incredibly complex where he should have been looking for something simple. Like this box, the murder is not complex, elaborate, or genius, as we should have known for the moment Duke's mum solved it at a quick glance.
That first one's a Fibonacci sequence.
We don't need intricate detective work, we just need to go at the box with a hammer. It's about truth, really, I think, and the truth is I'm very bad at transitioning my videos into a glorified sponsorship ad. Sorry. Hello world! Have you heard of World Anvil? World? Sponsoring this video. World Anvil is an online tool for world building, character creation, campaign building and playing in all of these games, planning and writing your stories and possibly some other stuff. I just use it for my novel, but it does other stuff too. World building can be difficult, you know. I used to use a folder for different Word documents which seemed simple enough to begin with until things get complex and you end up with a disorganized mess and you suddenly wish you had hyperlinks to different characters or mythologies in your notes. Or imagine this, say you want to design your own calendar for your world. You can pop in all the information, have the calendar generated, then build a timeline of historical events linked to that calendar or several calendars with all sorts of hyperlinks you might want sprawling to other articles, and then upload a map and link different events to locations on the map so you can easily see where and when everything happened. I find that so handy, and if the timeline affects how the map looks, such as a big city getting destroyed or whatever else, you can add altered maps to reflect those changes. And there are other tools as well. This is just the one I find most exciting, especially when it is all surprisingly easy to set up. In all my use of World Anvil so far, I haven't ever bothered to watch any of their tutorials on how to do stuff. I've just got on with it. I have a link in the description and as a pinned comment with the code TREE, which offers you 40% off all their subscriptions. There are different levels and you can even try out the free version initially, so give it a whirl, take it for a test drive. World Anvil. Now me back to talking other things. Now back to... Back to the video. To understand what's really going on in this exchange, I think we need to rewind slightly and see the context around it.
I'm a truth teller.
What first drew you all together?
I think disruptors recognize each other.
I think we, as the audience, or at least me when I was watching this film, was wondering what really brings these people together. They are introduced through a group phone call, which makes it clear they are all friends, and they meet up all excited on the dock, and they so clearly have this shared history that seems deep and developed. They keep talking about past memories and things, but it's not really explained at all until this scene. Miles launches into an elaborate speech about how they are all what he calls disruptors, visionaries basically. They shake up the system even when the system doesn't want them to.
They're gonna call you crazy. They're gonna say you're a bully. They're gonna tell you to stop.
Which is an explanation that doesn't exactly tell us who they are. It tells us who they think they are, a point Andy then underlines by coming forwards to disrupt this speech, her being the only real disruptor in this film. And she lays out how everything Miles just said is nonsense. They don't shake up the system at all, they exploit it, they leech off of it. Duke uses Twitch influence to sell
rhino horn boner pills to teenage boys.
With zero rhino on those pills.
Birdie made her money profiting through a sweatshop in Bangladesh. There's nothing visionary at all there. There's nothing that changes the system. A news reporter introduces politician Claire to us in this film as a very different kind of candidate because her campaign champions environmentalism, but the whole campaign is bankrolled by Miles here, who has her go against her morals to support an unsafe, dangerous form of renewable energy. Likewise, Lionel is just a scientist working on whatever Miles sets him to work on, even when he himself has great ethical concerns about it, specifically the idea of
put a volatile substance on a manned flight.
They exploit others for their own interests, for which Miles then exploits all of them for his own interest. They do what he says. Even when they disagree, they go along with it because they can't risk to lose his support, his wealth, his influence.
Every single one of you is holding on for dear life to Miles Brine's golden titties. And each of you, you'll stab a friend in the back to hold on.
So yeah, I mean, Andy makes this point quite clear herself in the film. They don't shake up the system, they are the system. A system in which all bend the knee to those who are wealthier. Even the truth bends to suit them. So what is the point of me saying all this? Well, yes, 1, Andy gets her voice here, that's a turning point. 2, the true heart of this story is kind of revealed in this moment. As is pointed out, there is no true, complex, well-developed, intricate web of dynamics and history between these friends. Nothing super deep holding them together, none of that matters or is even essential to the mystery. The single connecting dot that holds these people together is Miles. How they depend on his wealth and influence and how he exerts his power over all of them. Sometimes so much power over them that Andy even suggests,
My life was taken away from me.
36-ish minutes into this film and it hints at the whole conclusion, but more than that, I think. In this scene, the Disruptors set up an image of who they all are, only for Andy to completely break that apart and reveal the truth, exactly as happens at the end of the film, exactly as happened in the box scene at the beginning too. It all kind of repeats. The only true difference being how forcefully Andy points out the truth in each occurrence. I might be wrong, but that's kind of what I imagine the film is saying in this whole thing about her changing from someone who doesn't drink to then downing a lot of alcoholic kombucha and letting herself get a bit reckless and stuff in a positive way. Mostly I think that's there for a joke, but it also highlights her growth in this film, because in the first scene she smashes apart the box to reveal the truth of how stupid it all is and to smash up their little system, sure, but she's silent here. We don't know who she is yet or what it means, and it has no effect on anything. No one even knows she's done this. Then she goes off to the island and she has a few drinks.
That's hard kombucha. That's Jared Leto's hard kombucha.
And this time she isn't silent, she has a voice, but it still mostly falls on deaf ears, as we'll come to in a second with their response to her. But then, by the end of the film, she's had even more Dutch courage. Benoit even deliberately gives her some, and she goes all out in full force now. There's no dismissing her this time. This is what makes the metaphor of the glass onion so fitting for this film, because all of it has been crystal clear throughout. All of the conclusion is shown to us multiple times before we ever reach it, but it takes the arc of this truth seeker to become more forceful and explicit before we actually realise. Which of course is what the real danger is, exactly as Benoit just told us. The danger isn't so much Birdie and others like her speaking without thought. The danger is when we as a collective mistake that speech without thought for the truth, when we overlook the actual truth in place of this. So yeah, to emphasise the hopefully obvious message now, the film isn't aggressively criticising idiots in power. It's not saying being stupid is bad or whatever, and that if we just take down those idiots who happen to be in power like Miles, everything will then be fine. I think the film is instead criticising a system in which such idiots can be mistaken for people deserving of power in the first place. And that if that is the case, if they do so regularly get mistaken for that, then maybe the system needs changing, or smashing, or burning down in a vast, glassy explosion. I did say the film's message was aggressive. But look, I'll make one other short point that ties into all of this, and then I'm going to stop talking for today. And that points to think about the response the Disruptors have here. So yes, Andy has made a speech, and what Birdie says is a direct response to that. I'm a truth teller, no filter, raw truth, say it like I see it, speak my mind, all those kind of cliches that she's repeated constantly throughout this film.
And I say it like I see it, no filter. People can't handle it, that's their problem.
I'm a truth teller, and some people, in this case Andy, just can't handle it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is irony. Because what Andy just did that very second was speak the truth, no filter, raw, uncut, and whatever else. To which, firstly, Miles doesn't even respond because he doesn't need to. He's already said his part. He's a disruptor, a visionary, and some people, in this case Andy, just can't handle it, so he basically ignores the whole speech.
Anyway, dinner's at 8. See you all there?
Then Birdie says her response, and that is both of them hearing the truth, spoken to them by Andy, and them not handling it. And I like that. That's that's my analysis. It's a fun bit of irony. Speaking your mind isn't always the same as telling the truth. In Andy's case, it is. She is the seeker of truth, sort of, in this film. That's why she says she came to the island.
I want the truth!
that's what she needs to do more of, whereas the rest of the group, although actually thinking about that, I'm not sure there. Do they need to speak their mind less, or is it that they haven't ever truly spoken their minds honestly either? Because, you know, when they needed to speak truthfully, all of them kept quiet and lied, so I'm not fully sure on that point yet. I've only seen the film once, but look, the point is this. This is basically the group's general response to criticism. If people disagree or get annoyed with us or whatever, it's because they can't handle the truth. They can't handle our visionary thinking, our next level stuff. They're not elite disruptors like we are. And you know, when someone decides to think like that, and that's their attitude towards all criticism, it's very hard to get them to properly reflect. Criticism can be horrible, but sometimes we need it. Sometimes we need people to go, no, hang on, rethink your thoughts there, you might be wrong. Birdie and Duke know they say things that upset people, but maybe that's not because they're challenging the norm. Maybe that doesn't make them disruptors. Maybe it just makes them dicks, you know, or defiantly ignorant. Maybe it's not some glorified rebellion, but just them being a bit offensive for no meaningful reason. And equally, when a billionaire powerhouse becomes set on his plan to introduce this zero-emission fuel to the world, despite there being very obvious, dangerous risks that could cause this fuel to kill thousands of people, when his own leading scientist argues this point, when his business partner argues it so strongly that she threatens to resign, he just dismisses their criticism. He doesn't have to listen. They're simply not as visionary as he is. And that is incredibly dangerous. Miles Bron doesn't carry the danger of a Bond villain because he's some brilliant evil mastermind. Miles Bron carries the danger of a Bond villain because he's too blinkered to listen to anyone's criticisms of his dumb, dangerously flawed ideas. Speaking without thinking does get idealised into this weird sacred truth. Hence why people like Trump and Musk and Boris Johnson and whoever else can hold sway.
Right, honourable gentlemen, all up and only put up taxes on inheritance and pensions and corporations.
Because of their power, because of their position of privilege, surely they must be geniuses. Surely they've earned that in some way. Yeah, I guess there is a reason we want to believe they have such position of power to begin with. I guess maybe we want to believe or hope that if, like, even just a few of these billionaires, if just a few are geniuses who care, then maybe those few will solve all our climate change or poverty or traffic problems for us. Maybe it'll be as easy as just doing what they suggest. But then maybe there is no good reason they're in such a powerful position. What if they're not geniuses? What if they just did well out of exploiting and stealing from people who were smarter than them? I find it funny how Birdie responds to Benoit pointing out the true dangers at the heart of this story by being flattered.
Are you calling me dangerous?
You realise that's what all of them want to be. That's why they've bought into this image that they've made up themselves. You know, they've completely invented this idea of disruptors for themselves because they want to feel dangerous and rebellious. But the idea of rebellion suggests some kind of purpose, some cause, vision, meaning you're fighting for. And there's none of that here. They're dangerous not as rebels, but precisely because there is no purpose behind any of their actions beyond either basic self-interest or impulsive, foolish decision-making. There's only one rebellion, one disruption in this film, and it's not them. Look, I wanted to do a big analysis talking about all sorts from this film, both the good and the bad. The symbolism of the Mona Lisa. Most of the contrivances don't bother me for this sort of film, to be fair, but a little more exploration of character depth I think would have been nice. The film makes its point brilliantly, but it doesn't make many other points. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. And I guess as much as I say it's an aggressive criticism, how nice it feels, how relieving when the worst thing to happen on a billionaire's private island is a murder. Reality tells us this film could have gone so much further there, but yeah, that definitely would have clashed with the tone. Anyway, the point is, knowing my work schedule in the next few weeks, I decided to do this shorter video so I can get it out where the film is still kind of relevant. I'm awful at watching things when they're still relevant. I've tried. Comment your thoughts though, good or bad, like the video if you liked it, support me on Patreon maybe. A big thank you obviously goes to World Anvil, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as ever, a special thank you goes to Janice McMahon, Luke Core, Treat Ukaba, Michael Gallagher, In Squares, Flying Spider, Samara Salsi, Joshua C. Follier and Chad Bramwell. Thank you.